access to the keyboard. Okay, we're live on Facebook. It is Scott and the Gatekeeper here today. It's going to be very fun. Let's wait till we get some people in the room.
Me too. I can't. There it is.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Rock and roll. There we go. And all right, we got some people coming in. Facebook, give us a shout out in the chat room so you know that works. Somehow we hit 100 restream messages before we did anything. Good morning, Nelzone. How you doing? We got Rob Otto in the green room, which takes on new meaning for Ghostbusters.
It sure does.
So the green room is probably one of the pits of hell or something like that.
Hey, Manny, nice to see you out there. Richard Bennett, good to see you. Oh, Nelson, I thought you were making a gangster reference. It was all good.
I did.
We both did.
I thought the same thing. The gangster. All right. Let's see. We got a couple. We'll wait one more minute for people to come rolling on in.
For sure.
People are starting to filter in over on the Facebooks. We're an over on YouTube today. Interesting. And I think this will be another one where LinkedIn is not interested in.
And that's just, it depends?
LinkedIn seems to be very humorless. Hello, Ollie Kirby.
Hey,
How you doing?
Ollie.
Hey, Big Nasty. What's going on? Chris McWhitenhouse. Fantastic. Nelson,
you guys?
of course, Nelson's already over the
Of course he is. This is why you and Nelson are friends. Joan Otto is in the chat room saying, I'm just here to listen to Rob Otto.
Yeah. All right. Well, if Joan Otto's in the chat room, we're going to have to go live. Baby, you ready?
I am ready.
And 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm not touching that screen.
You don't touch that screen.
Welcome to
I'll scoot over so I'm in the middle.
StorySmack.
Episode number 75.
Yes, we got to wait till we save that for the podcast intro.
Yeah, well, there's two. I sent you a whole note about it. Yes.
Oh, shoot. I didn't read it. All right, go ahead.
That should have been the next line. So
we're not doing that for the podcast intro? Or we redo it again?
We're redoing it I should have put it down there.
Oh. My name is Scott Sigler. Number one New York Times bestselling novelist, and I know there is only Zool.
Yep. And back with us again today, finally, we missed him last month, is Empty Set's movie maven, Rob Otto. Can we bring Rob out of the green room, please?
Let's bring Rob out of the green room.
Hey, Robbie, how are you?
Hey! All right, who brought the dog?
You look so good.
You guys want to play Twister?
I love it. So, anybody who is watching, as you know, every time we do StorySmack, we do another intro. In just like a minute, we'll do another intro so that we don't have to recut it for the podcast, and then we're all done. But you guys who are viewing, you get to see Rob's gorgeous outfit, and you get to see that us on the left coast. Oh my goodness! Can I have the A camera live, please?
The A camera live. Sure.
We are drinking Ghostbusters cocktails, you guys, and I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie to you. No, wait. Oh. Not gonna lie to you guys. I am not gonna recommend that you drink the Ghostbusters cocktail because 1, it's completely made of alcohol, and 2, it tastes like terrible cough syrup. So I've modified it a little bit. I added a little Mountain Dew so it'd be green.
Oh, all right.
A little bit of lemon juice. But these are technically a Ghostbuster cocktail.
Oh, now I can try it?
Good luck. They're terrible drinks, you guys.
I mean, I've had worse, but not many.
Robbie, what are you drinking? Hopefully not this cocktail.
In honor of Mr. Stay Puft himself, I am drinking a martini with marshmallow. Hey, you got your marshmallow in my alcohol. No, you got your alcohol in my marshmallow.
That actually looks pretty good.
How is it, Robbie?
Well, it's supposed to be made with vanilla vodka, but I didn't have any vanilla vodka, so I made it with watermelon vodka. And it is just scrumptious.
Oh, good. Yeah, not ours.
Yeah.
Maybe don't make the ectoplasm cocktail, you guys out there in TV land. So now
go for the martini instead.
Yeah, we are going to switch and redo the intro for the podcast, so you guys will hear a little bit of what you've already heard, and then we'll get rolling on the Ghostbusters.
Okay, you
stuff.
ready? Let me hit record. And 3, and 2, and.
This is StorySmack, a podcast about stories and storytellers in the world of pop culture. My name is A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and founding partner at Empty Set Entertainment. I am joined each week by New York Times #1 bestseller Scott Sigler and screenwriter Rob Otto. How are you guys?
I'm good. Rob, how are you?
I'm very excited for the coming of Gozer the Gozerian. Thank you very much.
Rob is, for those of you listening at home, Rob is rocking the look of Vince Sklortho.
Technically Lewis, right?
Is that Lewis?
Yeah, I think I'd have to mess my hair up a lot more.
You're still Lewis.
He's still, at the moment, he's Lewis.
Yes, looking good, Lewis.
And this week we are
Feeling
obviously
good. Wrong movie.
we are this week discussing the 1984 iconic movie Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out real soon. And you will see a lot of, we're so timely, you guys, so timely, because this is the week that all the advertising has started, because New York Comic Con is in high gear. So you're going to see Ghostbusters Afterlife everywhere. So get caught up with us and then you'll be ready to go. Do you want to give us the movie guy synopsis?
I do. After the members of a team of scientists lose their cushy positions at a university in New York City, they decide to become Ghostbusters to wage a high-tech battle with a supernatural enemy for money. They stumble upon a gateway to another dimension, a doorway that will release evil upon the city. The Ghostbusters must now save New York from complete destruction. There we go.
Your Ghostbusters or your movie guy voice this week has a teeny bit of Casey Kasem in it. It's nice. I like it. I do.
Well, you know why?
No.
Casey Kasem talks about the Ghostbusters and American and the countdown continues. And his wife dances with Lewis at his party. So it's really
That's right.
It's true. It was on.
That's why.
It was on point, is what you're saying.
It's very,
On
very,
point,
very
Scotty.
close. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so baby, tell us about the financial breakdown of this movie. One of my favorite parts of all of these shows is how much did it cost? How much did it make?
Yeah, and this is so interesting because normally I'll start by saying I think all of us, all three of us, even if it's a movie we know and love and have seen at least a dozen times, we watch with intention to do this show. And I'll be honest, I didn't watch. I've seen Ghostbusters so many times that when I was pulling together the script, I was smiling and happy and looking up clips, and I was like, I'm not sure I need to watch it. I think I might know this movie pretty well. Regardless, I did not know these things. Ghostbusters cost $30 million to make in 1984. The equivalent of that today would be about $79 million. So really, for the longevity of this movie, it is such a steal, you guys, such a steal. And it made back then $282.2 million at the box office, making it one of the top two earning movies in 1984, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Depending on where you look on the internet, they flip-flop between first and second. That's how close they were. So two movies in 1984 made almost $300 million in 1984 dollars. It's huge, because 1984 dollars, that would be $743 million in 2021.
That's Avengers money right there, Joe.
Absolutely.
All right. Favorite moments of the movie. Robbie, what is your favorite moment? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, you go first. Favorite moment of the movie.
I mean, no holds barred. Ray. When someone asks if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes.
That's true every time you're on the spot. It's the one time it's
good
okay
call.
to lie. If you're saving the world, you get to lie about being something that you're not.
Yes.
100%. And earlier in the movie, we get to see Bill Murray test that, because when when Zool says, "Are you the Keymaster?" he says, "Yes," and she lets him in, and he says, "Well, I'm a friend of his. I'm just meeting him here." So you always say yes.
Always say yes.
I have to admit, and it's great. There's so many great lines in this one.
So many.
I didn't realize that it was Winston that said that line.
Oh, really?
I assumed it was one of the other main guys, but it's Winston that says that line, and it is such a great line.
I'm so happy you said that, because that's why I put Ray in it, because you hear that throughout pop culture all the time, but it's when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. That's in the GFL. If somebody asks you if you're a godling, you say yes.
That's why I
So I
in
put
there.
the Ray in to kind of frame it a little, so I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
My
Joey,
favorite
disagree?
moment, guys, and honestly, I got to tell you, I'm probably going to sprinkle in favorite lines, favorite moments,
Please.
That's
quick
all right.
little improvs, little scenes, whatever. But the entire choose your form of the destroyer, right? That whole scene where everybody's just like, empty your minds. And everybody says, no, we didn't choose nothing, right? Did you choose anything?
I didn't
And then
choose nothing.
Ray just is slowly backing up while they're all saying, I didn't choose anything. My mind was blank. And then they all kind of look at Ray and he's like, I couldn't help it. It just popped in there. And it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And it's just like, and it's so amazing to think that they cut that scene, they put it in, but they were just like, I don't think this is going to work. Let's show this to test audiences. And if it doesn't work, if the Marshmallow Man doesn't work, we've got to change that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Like, it is like the greatest moment of the movie when you see Mr. Stay Puft with his little sailor hat on, walking giantly through the streets of New York.
I got to get my Stay Puft.
Okay, guys.
So hold on.
Oh, it's up there. You've got to go
I will say, I agree with you, because the other part of that is he is exactly the one of them. It's that character who would be trying to help and like think of innocent, nice things.
Yeah.
And not quite understand the assignment, right? Like, cool, I'm not going to think of anything bad. I'm not going to think of anything bad. Instead of think of nothing at all. And then he ends up, having to deal with a killer. Oh, there's a whole stepladder coming out.
The shortest man in the company.
I would like to point out a couple of things, because after Gozer says, choose the form of the traveler, choose the destroyer, the first thing that Venkman does is he walks up and says, oh, I get it. If we choose J. Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover is going to show up. Why didn't giant J. Edgar Hoover show up? Because he just said it, right? I mean,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
They could have done that. But honestly, either a guy made of giant marshmallow or glass would have been an excellent choice, because you could blow something up that's made out of marshmallow or glass. So it actually turned out to be an
very,
excellent
very well.
decision.
They cooked him, and I did not know that until you mentioned that, Rob. That they didn't think this would work, because this has just become such an iconic part of Ghostbusters lore. I mean, I think with Ecto-1 as a lasting prop image that is so strong, it's been used again in the other movies, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which featured heavily in the video games. It's just when you think of Ghostbusters, you think of the four main guys, Ecto-1, and you think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
And you think of Slimer, because of course Slimer was so huge in the real Ghostbusters cartoon.
And I will tell you guys, both of you guys, that so in 1984 I was 12 years old, and I had, growing up, I used to walk to school past a tire, new tire, like a discount tire at the time, but it was a Michelin store. And the Michelin Man is vaguely a Stay Puft kind of a guy. And I used to walk to kindergarten and first grade, and I was terrified of the Michelin Man for no good reason. So when Ghostbusters came out, I was like, no, that's a little scary, right? It's a little scary. But I had satisfaction, spoiler alert, when he got blown
if it had been the Michelin Man, that would have been very difficult, because you can't hit him with any physical objects. They bounce right off.
Exactly, yeah. But he looks similar, so I appreciated seeing the demise of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It helped soothe some of my childhood trauma.
I got two favorite things. The favorite thing of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is that expression Stay Puft gets right before he blows up. And they did such a good job on that. But my favorite thing about the movie are the two demon dogs, because the shape of the demon dogs were very influential in deciding the shape of the ancestor from the titular novel Ancestor.
Really? That's very cool.
Yes.
I never made that
shoulder
connection
forward.
Before,
the big shoulders forward, the tiny hips, and the 45-degree angle. When I was working on a monster that would look cool, I kind of took that demon dog and a gorilla and a Dimetrodon, put all that together. And I wish I'd got some pictures for you guys, but I didn't think about it. But that's why that image of that giant forward top-heavy predator has always been big in my mind. I wrote a book about it. There you go.
How cool. So we're going to get into, there's obviously, all of you guys watching probably have seen Ghostbusters more than once, have love of Ghostbusters. We're going to talk about some of the key players and how they got there. I'm going to start. We're going to talk about producer and director Ivan Reitman. Ivan Reitman, he is the one who secured the financing, and he actually got it when he made a 5-word pitch, which was Ghost Janitors in New York. Frank Price, then the studio head at Columbia Pictures, greenlit the film on that very basic premise. And
here's a check. Go. Here you go. Yeah. Ghost Janitors in New York. Here you go.
Although,
write the check.
Although, as Rob let me know, and he's totally right, the fact that Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis were already signed on to do it. That probably helped quite a whole lot in 1984. Yeah, that probably was a big deal.
Might have been a little easier to write a $30 million check knowing those guys were involved.
The financiers, there are some caveats, though. The financiers, when they greenlit, they gave Reitman one caveat about using their money, which was that this movie had to be released in June of 1984. And that gave them exactly 1 year after greenlighting to finish the script, shoot, and edit the entire movie. And if you guys are a little less familiar with filmmaking, you have to write the script before you can do location scouting. You have to start with the script. So that also, I'm saying they had to finish the script, shoot it, and edit it, but there's a million steps in between. Cast everybody else, get location shots, get the permits for all of that. 10 months is, 1 year is an enormously little amount of time.
And do you know why they had to do it, why they wanted to release in 1984?
I don't.
To compete with Indiana Jones, maybe?
I looked for that, and that's the best I can come up with, is that they sort of all of that coming.
The only thing I can think of is that Columbia probably didn't have a summer blockbuster on their slate. And they're just like, these guys are releasing this. Indiana Jones is coming out. We need to get our chunk of money. So I got to find something that can compete with that. And it has to be done in less than a year. I got to tell you, even if it was not let's say it was a basic love story or drama, a couple of locations and zero special effects, that would have been hard to do.
Yeah,
agreed.
Throw in all the effects and all of the giant locations that they had to use. I don't know how they did it. I have no idea. And for it to be so good.
And if you think about it, one of the reasons that this works is that these particular human beings, these four right here especially, and the rest of the Ghostbusters, of course, that actually really helped, because this movie is very ad-libbed, and that's because they know each other as actors and as humans really well, and I think that helped, because I'm not sure if you just hired people off the street, so to speak, you could have gotten the same vibe. The last thing I'll say about Ivan Reitman is he looked and couldn't find the right voice actor to voice Dana/Zool, and was running out of time in post-production, so he just recorded it himself. And at the screening, most of the cast didn't realize that was Ivan Reitman.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome, because he was the producer and he was the director, so he was in their face all the time, giving them line readings, and he still didn't notice. I love that.
Well, if you ask directors, I'm sure a lot of them will say that none of the actors ever listened to me. So probably not a surprise. They didn't recognize his voice. Good point.
And of course, the mega superstar, beloved American Bill Murray. Michael Keaton was originally cast as Venkman, but when Bill Murray told Aykroyd he was interested, they reworked the role and got rid of Keaton, kicked him in the ding-ding, sent him packing. Reworked the role of Murray, who director Ivan Reitman had worked with in Meatballs and Stripes. They wound up coming together. Almost none of the scenes were filmed as scripted. This should be no surprise. He's going to try some things. Most had at least one ad-lib. Most of Bill Murray's lines are ad-libs. Rather than take a paycheck for Ghostbusters, Bill Murray...
This actually, as an American consumer, pisses me off.
Rather than
how dare this socialist not take a paycheck?
Didn't take a penny. But instead of taking a paycheck, Bill Murray negotiated with Columbia Pictures to finance his personal pet project, a remake of the movie The Razor's Edge, about a World War I veteran who goes searching for the meaning of life after being scarred by war. Murray made no money off of Ghostbusters, but I'm sure he made a buttload off of Ghostbusters too.
Well, I have to say, though, Murray wanting to make art, he is the weirdest, best, most curmudgeonly version of a true artist in the movie community that I think I know, right? So he does all this weird bartering stuff. He's like, sure, I'll be a zombie in your movie if you want, whatever. I love that about him, that he wants to create something cool and wonderful. I'm not socialist, I know, but I love it.
I was just joking about the socialism thing. But have you ever seen Razor's Edge?
I have.
I don't think we can forgive him for that. That was one of the things Sigler used to rail on when we were kids. How dare Bill Murray try to make a serious movie? That's son of a bitch.
Unforgivable. They originally used a real 1-800 number in the Ghostbusters commercial and ran on TV as a publicity stunt. If you called it, you heard a recording done by Aykroyd and Murray. The phone line became very popular and actually received more than 1,000 calls an hour for 6 weeks during the movie's run in theaters. That must have been a hoot.
Oh my goodness. Scroll back to one photo if you can. Can you do that? I love this. This is one of his period, in the right period shots, headshots. Who is that guy?
Yes.
What is that?
It's a black and white mullet shot for those of you listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit over the right shoulder, I didn't see you come in.
I feel like this is the very young version of his character in Lost in Translation.
Yes.
Who thinks he's so self-important.
Now, Rob, we have a guy who's seen incredible highs and lows in his career. Next, writer and star Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, this movie doesn't exist without Dan Aykroyd, and honestly, it doesn't exist without Dan Aykroyd's family either. So
okay.
He based a lot of this. So let's see. His great-grandfather, Samuel Aykroyd, was actually a noted 19th century psychic investigator who conducted seances at the Aykroyd family farmhouse in Ontario. His grandfather, Maurice, allegedly tried to create a high-vibration crystal radio that could contact the spirit world. And Dan's father, Peter, had a sizable library of books about spooky subjects. So this was just part of Dan Aykroyd's world, and he tried to turn it into a movie. Now, here's the interesting thing. The original script that Reitman saw and somehow saw a gem in it was over 500 pages.
What?
It was set in the future where there were all series of Ghostbusters being attacked by giant monsters, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was just one of the giant monsters. It was like a giant future ghost kaiju movie.
Okay.
Is what Dan Aykroyd wrote. And somehow Ivan Reitman saw a great successful movie somewhere in the middle of that. So Reitman gets Harold Ramis involved. And Ramis had gone on to directing and writing. He hadn't acted in years. And he and Aykroyd reworked the script. And when it comes time to casting, we'll get into Harold Ramis in a minute, but the idea when Aykroyd was reworking the script was that it was going to be him and it was going to be John Belushi. And then, of course, John Belushi tragically died. And it just turned into there. And Aykroyd always jokingly said that John Belushi was still in this movie.
Yeah.
He was the big, gluttonous, green goo that attacks everybody and eats all the hot dogs and is constantly picking stuff off the food court. He says that is the ghost of John Belushi, so he is still in this movie.
That works pretty well.
It wouldn't work in a movie titled anything but Ghostbusters. It would have to be about ghosts, but I love that.
And the original title was Ghost Smashers, by the way, just so you know.
Still okay. Still, I'd be all right with that. And then, of course, we have Sigourney Weaver. She decided to do a wordless audition for director Ivan Reitman by doing the transformation into a terror dog. She even growled and gnawed on the couch cushions. That's pretty entertaining, I guess. Sigourney Weaver.
I mean, it says a whole lot about what she's willing to do to transform into a demon. Like, I think that's one of the things that you want to make sure. You can tell by looking. She's pretty. You can look at her filmography and know she can act. You don't know whether or not she'll bark like a dog, so to speak.
Can she do comedy? It's something she used to do comedy all the time when she was in like college and school and at stage stuff. A lot of comedy, but she of course was known for Alien and Aliens and that kind of stuff at the time. She wanted to do something more lighthearted.
Doesn't this predate Aliens though? This is 2 years before. This is 84.
And into 84.
Aliens is 86, I think.
Yeah, Aliens is 86, so you're right. But, I mean, Alien was
correct, of course. That 78. Alien 78, you're right. My bad.
But I got to tell you, I'm not sure I would have cast her in my movie, for acting like a dog and chewing on the couch cushions. I definitely would have asked her out, though.
And for the famous scene where she is floating, that is a physical effect. Actress was put into a full body cast and attached to a post hidden in the curtains. So she's perfectly willing to suffer for her art as well.
And I will tell you guys, I grew up in high school, younger in high school and a little bit of college. I was really into practical magic. And that is a really, really uncomfortable thing. Because essentially, it's just like hanging a whole bunch of bananas on a banana hook in your kitchen. You've seen that happen. There is no support for like, ooh, you don't have a lot of padding right here. And you don't have any padding on your... That must have been a painful thing. And she was like, all right, whatever, let's do it. Yeah, she's a trooper.
And
imagine, she was probably up there for hours.
That's what I'm saying,
I mean, take after take after take.
Doing that for 10 minutes, no big deal. Doing that for 3 days, a big deal. And she did it. And there's no stories of her. Back in the day, there's not a lot of stories of diva behavior on set at all. But
you don't get any of her from her, really.
Well, or anybody in the 80s. Like, that happens as we sort of elevate celebrities to be a different thing. But we don't have a ton of that in the 80s. We only have Jack Kerouac.
Paparazzi and 24-hour news channels and
a little bit different.
And people willing to talk. And back then, there might have been stories, but nobody was willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us about Harold Ramis.
Oh, the late, great Harold Ramis. Oh, my goodness. Harold Ramis, if you don't know, sorry about this, spoiler alert, Harold Ramis died in 1984 of autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis. It's a great loss to the film community.
Not 84.
I'm sorry, in 2014. Harold Ramis made a choice to never smile as Egon, which I sort of love. That's why I picked this photo you see right now, because this is the closest I could find. I literally looked for pictures of him in costume, in character. This is the closest to a smile I could find, which is absolutely not a smile. For this role, Harold that Harold Ramis eventually got, Christopher Walken, John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd, and Jeff Goldblum were all considered for the role of Egon Spengler, or Dr. Egon Spengler. Having gotten so close to the character during the writing or the rewriting of the script with Dan Aykroyd, Ramis felt compelled to play the part, thus resurrecting his dormant acting career.
And then,
Go ahead.
And then we have one more picture of him. Oh, I had a bunch of pictures of him. Holy
You
cats.
did, yeah.
He's and there he's
And that's
smiling.
it, yeah.
That's his
Ramis
last
was
year
the
before
best.
he
Just the
passed on. But
Yeah, just the best.
What an incredible body of work. What a great legacy of fun
talent.
and joy to leave behind as your tombstone. It's
And
quite
that
great.
hair, too.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
the hair.
I believe
Egon
that
hair.
he and John Hughes are sort of spiritual brothers in this regard. Like they left a lot of goodness, and then they left us too soon.
And now we get into what a lot of people don't know. One of the biggest box office titans in the history of mankind, Harold Ramis. Or sorry, it's Rick Moranis. Sorry, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, sorry.
See, you just wanted to pay honor.
There you go. So
Here we go with
Rick
the-
Moranis.
Here we go
Rob,
with
tell us
Vince.
about Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis he originally was not going to be cast in this movie. I know it's one of our notes later, but I'm going to ruin it now.
That's okay.
They were originally looking at his SCTV partner to come in and take the role instead. John Candy was originally thought of
he
to
would've
play
been great.
Louis Tully, but he wanted him to be German and have a really strong personality and a thick accent. And oh, thank goodness that they did not go in that direction, because Louis Tully is the geeky little nerdy guy down the hall is absolutely fantastic. And Rick Moranis is just so good. I mean, we talked about the SNL connections and how there was so much ad-libbing. Same thing for SCTV, right? I mean, Moranis was on SCTV, the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live, for years.
Yeah,
and
he was
years and
great.
years. And so it's probably just, there was this thing where we're rewriting the script. Why don't you guys just go out there and do something, and let's run, let's run the cameras on the, on the appreciation of what you're doing. Rick Moranis, that scene, that's all done in one take when he's introducing the new people that arrive at his party. He's a CPA and they're all his clients. He improvised that entire scene.
Wow.
It's
Talking
insane.
about how they're living off the dividends of an IRA, and he runs his own carpet cleaning business. And then over here, I mean, it's one shot. It's like 2.5 minutes long. Moranis never stops talking. He never breaks character. He comes up with, was he a CPA himself? How does he know all these money things and can talk about them so openly? It's absolutely
But
fantastic.
he's doing improv his entire career leading up to that.
true.
With Second City Television, yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. So a lot of the whole backstory of Louis Tully came directly from Rick Moranis.
It's
and
awesome.
His role gets bigger in the second one. He becomes their accountant, which is, again, one of these moments. Like, he's just survived this near-death experience. They just took a giant dog head off of him, and he says, "Who are you guys? We're the Ghostbusters." His first thought is, "Who does your taxes?" I mean, there's no way that was in the script. That is all Rick Moranis right there, 100% in character. So it's just really cool. And of course, he is Bob.
Yes.
Of Bob and Doug
Yeah.
McKenzie with his SCTV partner.
And the
Dave
training
Thomas.
they get, I got to go see Second City Television, the Second City Troop once in Chicago, and that is how they do it. They line them up, they throw a couple of pitch things to them, and then you watch these brilliant people create live on the fly. So they're all very used to this.
Yeah, well, for sure. And I do think, it's an interesting recursive thing to think about Rick Moranis ad-libbing things that would get Rick Moranis hired for, if there were sequels, hired for the sequels, is very much a Louis Tully thing to do. And that's exactly what Rick Moranis did.
Now,
He did write off that entire party. That's why he didn't invite friends. He only invited clients.
He did.
There is a perpetual rumor that's gone around for decades, and that the reason they could not do a Ghostbusters 3 was because they couldn't pay Rick Moranis enough. That was when he was coming off of, he had semi-retired, and he had Honey, I Shrunk the Kids money from that whole
Yeah.
franchise. He didn't need money at all, and they just couldn't. And the rest of the guys were like, look, if he's not going to do it, we don't want to do it.
Yeah, and I don't know how much, if that's true or not. I do know there's a thing you may or may not know about Rick Moranis, especially if you weren't a kid or you weren't raising kids back in his heyday in the 80s. His wife died in 1991 of cancer, and his children were quite young, and he made the decision that his children were more important than his movie career because they only had one parent and one shot at growing up. So that's why he was retired, and it wasn't until all of his children had gotten off and launched on their own into their own lives. Now he's like, sure, I'll be in movies again. But so I wonder, the classic Hollywood version of that is like he's too expensive, but I wonder if it just wasn't worth it because his kids came first. It's sort of a nice thing.
And then we move on to a couple more characters we've got. Miss Annie Potts.
I love this. So Annie Potts is she auditioned for the role of Janine Melnitz. And then when she was auditioning, she had a nanny, and she borrowed her nanny's, or asked her nanny to dress her Brazilian nanny to dress her, because that woman had a style that was unique and she thought would work for the character. And obviously it probably did.
Yeah.
And then before the filming started, but after she was hired, Annie Potts visited the set to watch them film at Firehouse 23 in Los Angeles. And Ivan Reitman noticed her in the crowd and put her in the scene. And because she wasn't necessarily in character, she grabbed the prescription glasses that one of the costume designers had, which is why Janine wears those glasses in the movie, which I kind of love.
So she was just there kind of scoping it out, because she's already in the movie, but she was there watching and he threw her in the scene.
Yep.
Fascinating. It's weird how this stuff happens.
Again, going to the ad-libbing, the loose
the
and
improving,
free idea of this movie. They're just like, well, Annie's here. Annie, you want to jump in the scene and bounce a couple lines off the guys?
And that's
that's awesome.
It's really a testament to the director to be able to recognize the talent around him and say, okay, you two go in the scene and just go play for a little bit and let's see what happens. It's quite impressive.
Now, that being said, as a guy who's now writing more screenplays, I cannot tell you as a writer how much that would piss me off. I'm spending months crafting exactly the right word for the right sentence in the right spot.
100%.
And these sons of bitches are ignoring it.
Or they write something better on the drop of a hat. And you're like, you son of a bitch.
Well,
how dare you upstage me?
And you guys who are writing screenplays, you both have to worry enormously and very granularly about where the acts break, how many pages the whole screenplay is, all of that.
Yeah.
Once it's greenlit and you're in production,
you
you have
do
a Bill
whatever you
Murray on your set. I'm sure those money guys are going to be like, yeah, no, that's fine.
That's fine.
It can be 20 minutes longer.
Just let Egon and Pete play. Just go.
And then we have Ernie Hudson. Yeah, Ernie was great. Ernie Hudson first heard about Ghostbusters when he happened to bump into Ivan Reitman in an elevator at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. At the time, Reitman assured him there wasn't a role for him, but later auditioned for the Winston character. Much like Winston, Ernest L. Hudson Sr., a U.S. Marine veteran, he has also appeared in Airheads, Congo. He's great. He's great. He stole the show in Congo.
He
The
did,
Crow,
for sure.
Miss Congeniality, Ernie Hudson, awesome dude.
And there's a thing that I didn't put in the script, but I saw quite a few times. At the premiere of the movie, security didn't think that Annie Potts or Ernie Hudson were part of the cast. So they were on the red carpet being photographed and got removed by security because they thought that they were crashing. Yeah, it's an interesting thing in this world in 2021 to think, oh, the black man and the woman got removed, but I honestly think at the time, like the other stars were just such bigger stars, including Rick Moranis, like everybody, that but that's a sort of a fun, some weird thing that I don't think would happen today for either one of those actors.
Well, it's not like, some publicists can look them up on IMDb.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
That wouldn't happen in 84.
Still quite a bit of a fail, but then we move on to the last character we'll discuss, Mr. William Atherton. Oh, there's Ernie Hudson's. Okay, there. William Atherton, go ahead, Rob.
We have to.
This is great. And honestly, it's funny. You think, well, Gozer and Zool, they're the bad guys. No. Dickless is the bad guy in this movie. And William Atherton just plays it so great.
He's great.
He plays the smarmy, know-it-all, probably as good as anybody else can. He's the official from the EPA who eventually shuts down the power grid because he thinks that there's noxious chemicals and that this whole thing, they're staging it all. None of this is real. And the cool thing is, this is great, people held this role against William Atherton for years. Walter Peck, right? The Pecker. So anytime he was in public after this movie came out, people would verbally abuse him. They would shout things at him. They would try to start fights with him, right? I mean, bus tours would go through New York, and he was walking down the street. They'd all yell to him, "Hey, Dickless!" I mean, they were just and it's funny,
what do you do, like,
Ivan Reitman later at an
Yeah,
event,
what do you
and
do
it was
as an
just-
actor?
Yeah. And just, Ivan was just like, "Hey, William, isn't this fantastic how well the movie's doing?" And William walked up and said, "Screw you, Ivan Reitman. This is your..."
It reminds
And David Room in the chat room, he played a similar character in Die Hard.
He did, yeah,
And,
he
the
did.
Die Hard
Absolutely,
series,
yeah. Absolutely.
I wonder though. There's in the internet era. There's the story of the guy who was on the bus stop and train stop posters getting arrested for hopping or not paying his fare. He's got this big long curly hair like Princess Buttercup in The Princess Bride, and he has to carry a letter saying like he is an actor in that photo because he keeps getting harassed because he's in cuffs as it's a drug dealer, I think. And there literally were like 10,000 posters, so people
Oh my
notice him.
gosh.
And this was back in the day. I don't know if it still
That's
happens. but
funny.
yeah, so William Atherton had a similar thing, but that sort of happens, and it sort of tells a lot about how your mind works because you take the bus every day, you start to see that guy as suspicious, and then you see him, at your church, and you're like, oh,
You call the
no.
cops on that guy.
No,
right?
you're a drug dealer.
Atherton, the year after this came out, was the main meanie professor in Real Genius, the Val Kilmer.
Oh, that's the other one.
Essentially,
Okay.
same character,
Yep.
same
Yep.
look, same Dickless.
Yep.
Dude has made a whole career out of being extraordinarily good at that particular thing.
So good.
Uh,
So good.
You know
Perfect.
what? People they look at me and they want to punch me. What can I do with this if I don't want to be a fighter? I'll be an asshole actor. It'll
For
be
sure.
great.
Exactly
For
right.
sure.
Yep.
All right, that is closing out of our character list, and now we go on to general thoughts about the movie.
Oh yeah, and I just this second I realized there were other characters that we don't have photos for that we should have. We should have had Slimer. We should have had the Ectomobile. we should have had the fire. And that's my fault. My job is photos, and I didn't do that until just this second. We should have had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That's all right. That's all
But
right.
we'll talk a little bit about that.
But think about it, right? Gozer the Gozerian, who's the the woman with the punk haircut and
Yep.
the body, Oh, she's a what is it? She's a nimble little minx, isn't she? Right? We don't even talk about her when we
No.
talk about this movie. Nobody thinks about her. She's the main baddie officially,
Yeah.
and yet you never talk about her. She's the afterthought. She's the Deus Ex Machina.
and part of that
gets
is
the thing rolling.
she looked great. She played that role great. She looks like she walked out of a Debbie Harry metal video.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure,
And
sure.
And that eye candy alone, so well shot, so well lit. Right, Rob. We don't even think about that because the other stuff just blew up.
Well, the other thing is, I think today, anybody who saw this in the theater as a teenager or a child, anyway, in 1984, today probably thinks of Slimer as a good thing. Slimer is a ghostly presence on Earth in New York City sent to do harm. That's it. That's all. And we're like, oh, Slimer.
And eat all the hot dogs. Well, that part of that is because this was when Rob and I were of collegiate age. The Ghostbusters cartoon was very successful, and they made Slimer like the cute kid / animal mascot. So there were many years where Slimer was presented as like this is the fifth Ghostbuster in effect.
Yeah.
And I used to love that cartoon. We used to literally skip practice to go watch that.
That's
cartoon.
actually why I mentioned when we were children, because it's
Yeah.
and the one of the nice things I was going to bring up, but I'll bring it up now. It's perfect timing. Is one of the great things about this franchise, which is rare today, is so many of the actors who were in that first movie continue into other Ghostbusters movies, but also continue into other AV. They do comic books, they do video games, they do cartoons, and it's a huge amount of. And if you think about it, Bill Murray doesn't need to do any of this, but even Ernie Hudson might, Annie Potts might. That might really shore up their like kids' college funds and stuff. And that doesn't happen so much anymore. You sort of take that franchise and then you pick one star. Like we'll get Chris Pratt to do his part in Jurassic Park, the video or the cartoon. But then you fill out everybody else with voice actors. And so I kind of love that because this, I know Bill Murray doesn't need the money, but like him having given up all the money for Ghostbusters, this is still a huge cornerstone of his career because he gets to do all these other things, which I think is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Point.
Now, I just, some of the things that Rob and A came up with as details in this is the originally weren't proton packs. It was supposed to be some kind of fancy wand. And the props department came up with the proton packs. But of course, watching these guys lug around these packs that almost tip them over is an additional comedy element. And when they have to go up the stairs carrying the packs and you get that quirky music playing, like that's another one. And so it wasn't just the director and the cast that were very talented. The props department and the mechanical department, all the people around them kept coming up with these great ideas
for sure.
that provide all of these little brushstrokes. And to me, the brushstrokes in a screenplay like this, they are sort of this invisible foundation of it. The more cool little things you have that you don't actually, you see and your subconscious recognizes them, but you won't go, oh my God, how cool, they have proton packs that are too big for them to wear. It's more of a subtle thing the actors carry with their body weight and their body English. All of those things go into creating what I call that gradient of believability.
Sure, for sure.
So what I try and do with my work is I'm going to give you 10 to 20 things that you already know that you think other people don't know. Usually in the realm of science, let's talk about cell division. We'll talk about, gravity. We'll talk about speed. Little things that you either know or you've heard of before, so that you start to create that trust, that level that, oh my God, this guy knows what he's talking about. So then when I move into the utter bullshit, people have already decided in their heart that they're going to believe what I tell them. And that's what all these props were. Everything looking so good all the time, all the little things that the supporting crew came up with.
So you'll love this.
Oh, go ahead, A. I'm sorry.
You guys you'll especially love this then. Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is coming out shortly. I don't think it's
I believe it's
already
coming
out.
out in November. It's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Is directed by Jason Reitman, who is Ivan Reitman's son. And of course, you instantly might think nepotism, but Jason Reitman went back to the building blocks for a lot of things and built his Ghostbuster proton packs based on the original blueprints for the first one. So they are heavy and hard to wear, which they could 3D print them and make it easy. But he was like, no, part of the reality of these being like, they're not professional Ghostbusters. They were professors. They were something different. So they're awkward. And one of the ways to make them awkward here is to do the same thing.
I got to break.
It's neat that that's one of the things you appreciate.
I got to break from the script for a minute. Let's talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Let's do a quick roundtable. Based on the trailer I have seen, which basically looks like they're trying to make a movie out of Stranger Things. Rob, Ghostbusters Afterlife, your predictions. Is this going to be good? Is this going to be a stinker? Is it going to honor the original, or is it just a whole different thing now?
I've got to admit, I was less optimistic about it before I saw the trailer. So the trailer helped. You're right. It is basically Stranger Things, the movie. It's Super 8 married to Stranger Things on a farm in the middle. It's got... The whole point is the cast worked so well. All we've talked about so far today is how great the cast and Ivan Reitman and the script and how everything worked together. I don't know if they can create that, but if you're going to try to recreate something like that, Paul Rudd's a pretty damn good place to start. Now, I've got a feeling the movie's going to focus more on the kids, and Paul Rudd's going to be kind of a secondary character. So I'm not convinced how well it's going to do. I don't know how much our generation is going to be interested in this, the way we were in the first and second Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters cartoon. So I think it'll do okay, but if this costs them $200 million to make, I don't know that it's going to make a lot of money.
It's hard to make that money back in the theaters these days.
Yeah, it is.
So I have to say a caveat and say that I have another job where I have a little more insight than this, because I do logistics for somebody who was involved in the prop making for this. So I actually think that Jason Reitman didn't just sit on his laurels and take this, but tried to make it relevant to the main movie-going audience now. I agree with you, Robbie. I'm not sure how many of the people who love Ghostbusters in 1984 will buy right in, but I also think he did a lot of work to make it a legacy to that original Ghostbusters. And so I think that in this world where it's probably going to be half streaming, half theaters, I think it's going to do really well. And from what I see from people movie-going people who I know, personally know, who have seen screeners and whatever, they really like it. They are absolutely biased because they are watching screeners. If I could watch a screener, I'd be biased too, So, but I think it probably will do well, built for this world right now. And if we're talking specifically about our generation and the people who loved the first Ghostbusters in the theaters, I agree with Robbie. I'm not sure how far of a reach it'll
have. The thing that struck me
upon
upon watching the trailer for the first time is, I'm like, this is not a comedy. When I watched the trailer, I'm like, this is a serious coming of age story that involves, the ghosts of our fathers, no pun intended, but, coming off this legacy, it is a dramatic, melodramatic, moody trailer that matches the Stranger Things concept very well. But to me, it didn't speak anything of Ghostbusters other than just the car under the tarp. It didn't see anything funny or lighthearted in the trailer.
Yeah.
And that's what really shocked me. I'm like, how can you... Is it going to be as serious as this trailer, or is it just a bad trailer cut?
Right. And, we don't really do multiple trailers anymore. For a while there were different types of trailers and different types of movie posters. But now, pandemic world, whatever, we don't do that. But I'll say this. My guess, I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be a good addition to the Ghostbusters realm. But I think what they're doing is saying, like, cool, you guys right now who are building your movie going persona because you're in that range, this works for you because you love Stranger Things and you're probably watching Squid Game and you're doing all those things. That trailer talks to them. What's going to talk to us is all the reviews and feedback and everything and Rotten Tomatoes when it comes out.
So if I'm hearing this right, you think they may have cut a trailer because Stranger Things is such a juggernaut and has done so well. If you can grab a piece of that audience, because of course we're going to go. Obviously our generation is going to go.
We may just watch it on video, but
or stream it at least.
Yeah, but we're watching it for sure.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Right now, what's selling right now is what is it? Bird Box, A Quiet Place, Squid Game.
God, have there been any recent
Stranger
horror comedies
Things?
that I'm drawing a blank on? Shaun of the Dead was the last one.
Yeah, not very many. So right now, what sells, what gets butts in seats, is this dark coming of age sort of thing. And so I think if you are going to make a trailer to appeal to the most people and you can't have a big box office mainstream opening like you used to because there's a pandemic, you make it look more like Bird Box, A Quiet Place, A Quiet Place too. And so what I think is that's how you get butts in seats. That's how you make a good first weekend return. And then the reviews come out and, the box office, the Rotten Tomatoes and whatever. I hope, and I really, really think, and I desperately hope that those are going to be the things that get all the rest of us to be like, okay, that didn't look like me, but it's Ghostbusters, I'm going.
And of course, this is something I'm focused on right now because Rob and I, our screenplay, Malpigs, that we are pitching right now, is a horror comedy and is very much in the vein of and influenced by the original Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters 2, we drop references of those in there. It's very Shaun of the Dead oriented. Like we're like, this is a squicked out comedy. So we'll see. From what I've seen so far, it looks like they've reinvented the property. This is to Ghostbusters what Cruella is to the original 101 Dalmatians. It's a completely different iteration of an existing IP.
And it may be. I don't actually know how, I haven't seen any of it. But I will also say, like, the Girl Ghostbusters version that was a few years ago, that was a comedy and did work. It didn't necessarily work for the people who love the original Ghost. It did work for me, but not necessarily all because it wasn't an homage. It wasn't recreating the vibe. It was recreating the roots with a different cast of characters.
That is such a good point. You wonder if it does turn out to be a little bit more serious and have a little more gravitas to it, could that be because Girl Ghostbusters, as you called it, came out, had a lot of problems in the marketplace, but it was a straight up comedy with very talented comedians in it, but it didn't do what they thought it would do. So now they're like, okay, that shows this old property as a straight up comedy isn't working. Let's do something different with it. Could that be it?
And it's a complex thing to have this. If, as you know, with your GFL series, it's very difficult to cross genre as your main property, right? So Ghostbusters was a hugely successful comedy, which became its own gestalt, and then to redo that, to make it a girl version with a Chris Hemsworth instead of an Annie Potts, that absolutely worked for me. But I also understand why it wouldn't work for some people who love, have a legendary status associated to that Ghostbusters that they first watched. It's not the same thing.
I think if they could have connected it more to the original, it all but ignores the original, and that's something that Ghostbusters Afterlife is not doing.
That was the
don't
weirdest.
Have a direct connection.
That was the weirdest thing. Like you've got, especially the ages of Bill Murray and the other surviving cast members, incorporating them into short 1 or 2 minute scenes to tie it together as a sequel. there was so much room to create there.
And
Just
that
be
would've
like,
made you
these are
feel
the
so much
daughters of the
better. Yeah.
Ghostbusters, and they have to start the business up again to save because their dad screwed up and they're all in debt. So it would have been so
they
easy.
acted as if the business never existed.
And I
before,
will
and
add
they're
two
just
little-
coming up with it. So
I didn't
I'll
like
add
that
two
part.
little
Poor choice.
notes here
Okay.
that you may not be thinking of. I do think that had the, I keep calling it Girl Ghostbusters, which is bad, but that version,
Mm-hmm.
had we done that, where we said, oh, they're the children of the
It
Ghostbusters,
would
they're
have
the
been
daughters.
huge.
Or it would have been, oh, nepotism. They got this job because their dads did it right and they're
but
doing
not,
it terrible.
Not the characters, though. They're not, the actors and actresses aren't the children of the original.
No, I'm saying
cast.
that legacy for the characters would also exist. Like this idea that they didn't earn this, even though the original Ghostbuster didn't flip and earn it. They got fired and had to do it, you know?
There's writing premises you can do to alleviate that.
I totally
Easy.
agree. I'm just saying
or,
the take.
or lean into that. Make
100%.
that a plot
Good call,
point.
Rob.
100%. All I'm saying is if you wanted to hate Girl Ghostbusters, you could hate Girl Ghostbusters for 10,000 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hate Afterlife, you can hate it for 10,000 reasons. If you are willing to watch it and see if you like it on its merits, as opposed to how well does this recreate the feeling I had when I was 14 and I watched Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
you may actually enjoy it. And that, you can't cater to that. You have to make the
good
movie
point.
you have. You can't just say, like, I want the most people to like it.
Chris McWhite in the chat room brings up a very good point. In the Batman, the change in tone of Batman, the Dark Knight tone, and going on, from the Joel Schumacher films to the juggernauts that they became later, that was a very successful thing. And they did completely reinvent the wheel. Not a lot of homage to original stuff, but they said this source material no longer works in this world, so we're going to update it and change it and make it something else, and it was hugely successful.
And there are people who are inveterate Batman fans when they were 14, and they're still fans today who fucking hate the Dark Knight. They hate it because it isn't Batman. And I'm
To
sure
them, it's not Batman,
to
yeah.
them it's not Batman.
Right.
And I am sure that there are people in my parents' generation who hate Michael. Well, a lot of people hate Michael Keaton's Batman. But my point is, there are people who are in the next generation up who hate that it's not an Adam West kitschy
I love this.
stuff on the screen kind of
Yep,
Batman.
yep.
So
Let's jump back into notes about the original Ghostbusters. Here's one I love because being a fan of the Millennium Falcon sound, how they got the sound, the Ecto-1 siren sound is a leopard snarl that was edited, pitched, and otherwise processed in analog. That is so awesome. Rob, what's some of your other favorite notes from the movie?
Well, since we're talking about Ecto-1, it's really interesting because they had such a small amount of time. Normally when you make prop cars, I mean, when they did Back to the Future, there were like 4 different versions of the car, right?
Okay.
And they all served different purposes. They built one Ecto-1, and that was it. And it's all that they had. And the interesting thing was, even after the success of this movie, when they shot the sequel, they still didn't build another one. They just kept using the first one. And the funny thing is, there's a scene towards the end of the movie where Ecto-1 is going across the Manhattan Bridge. The car died on the Manhattan Bridge while they were filming that scene. But it was like, they were like, well, that's the last shot of the car we need. I guess we're done. So they were just like, they only built one car, used it for 2 full movies. And, what was it? An old 59 Cadillac Miller Meteor ambulance hearse is what it was.
Okay, so it's an ambulance hearse. It's just such, it just, and that was one of the, even though they only had one of the brand, let's take a hearse and paint it white and colorful. And like that is that kind of switch 180 degrees thinking that goes into making these things, because I'm not sure if I'd ever seen a white hearse before that. Like that is a thing you're used to.
really?
It's black. You've seen white. A's dad was in the funeral home business.
my dad was a mortician, and I've seen literally 400.
White hearses.
White hearses, blue hearses, black hearses.
Well, I'm from
gold
Sheboygan,
hearses.
and all of my knowledge of the world comes from movies, because there was nothing that happened in our town. And I assure you, there were only black hearses before Ghostbusters, because I've watched every movie that's ever made. That's the
and
fact.
it's interesting to think, when they, they pull out that slider in the back and put their proton packs on it.
Yep.
You know what that slider is for in the
that
back of a hearse? Hey, would you like to fill the folks
No,
in?
no.
And what normally goes on top of that rolly slider
Yeah.
in the back of a hearse?
That's
This
pretty dope.
just took a really odd turn.
Because, the one thing Ghostbusters doesn't ever talk about is the humans that created those ghosts, which me personally, as a person who doesn't believe that
Yeah,
ghosts
that's
walk
a
the
good
world,
point.
like I don't think ghosts are a real thing personally. probably having grown up as a mortician's kid. Ghostbusters never associates the ghosts with death.
I wonder if that is
death.
something we'll see in the new one. If that, because we're such, the overall, and not using woke as a positive or a negative, but sort of our culture is more broadly aware of the different people involved in all the things going on. So you wonder if part of this movie will be, let's get into why is this person a ghost?
Yeah, exactly. Well, or that these ghosts were once people. The only time we talk about death in Ghostbusters is the fear of losing our main characters to death. That's it.
Yeah.
Which is unique and strange, because normally when you talk about ghosts, like if you think about The Others, the movie with Nicole Kidman, we don't talk a lot about death there, but it's very important to the plot, kind of thing.
It's also interesting, the idea of not explaining everything and writing it down, because there's just so many audiences today that question every little thing. Remember, the internet and, moviepoopshoot.com didn't exist in 1984 to rip apart every little bit of logic in every movie. They never explain why this is happening now, right? That building was built, 60 some years ago. At any point, this could have happened. Why is it happening now?
At the corner of Penthouse of Spook Central.
They never ask the question. They never come up with a reason why right now is the time that this is happening.
This is something that, as Rob and I are getting feedback from various people, pro people reading the scripts and sending it back to us, we do have some of these people who are asking, we can just tell they're 23, 24, 25, and they're very smart, but they're like, why is this happening now in your screenplay? What is the reason this caused? And we're like, okay, I appreciate the detail. You guys are going too deep, which is funny for me to say with the stuff I write. But for a 90-minute feature, 100-minute feature,
that's got some slapstick comedy elements too.
We've got fart jokes are more prominent than finding out why is this happening at this particular moment in the world, because it's not germane to the comedy.
And
earlier, I'm not sure we need to go into the life story of the guy of why he's sexist.
Right.
He just is. Because it works for us and it moves the plot forward. That's why he's...
Well, and earlier in this cast, Robbie, you said, we didn't have 24-hour news cycles. We didn't have thousands of internet opinions about every single thing we could look up. That informs, because it takes longer to process all that info. So we got used to needing to know more or being able to know more. And we don't need that. And not only that, we don't want that. I don't want to learn. Like, I know as a viewer, I might think in the moment, like, why is he being such a jerk? But if I find out 20 minutes of why he's being a jerk there, or even 5 minutes about why and that never comes up again because it's completely irrelevant, I'm going to be mad that you wasted my 5 minutes. And we don't know that about ourselves yet because we're not used to it.
There are plenty of people who come in and out of your life who are jerks or interact with you some way that you have no idea why they do that. And yet your life still goes on.
Yep.
For these 90 minutes, just let that guy be a sexist idiot, please. Is that okay?
Trust us that there's a reason. It's not just a character trait. I do have one thing before we move on, because we're almost running out of time. I do want to mention that Eddie Murphy was being considered for Winston's role.
Okay.
I think it was more than considered. I think he was attached to this movie.
And then the schedule conflict, he had a schedule conflict for an already committed role that was committed earlier.
Some little movie about him being a Detroit cop that ends up out in California.
I think in Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened with that, but boy, he messed out on an opportunity to do Ghostbusters. Let me tell you.
And Ernie Hudson did an absolute perfect job. Ernie is basically a straight man. He's a
and
very
he's a great straight
calm, reserved straight man. Eddie Murphy is not capable of playing a calm, reserved straight man. But with all the improv going on, like, you think about the human dynamo that is Eddie Murphy in that that smaller role. I think it would have been a train wreck, to tell you the truth.
Or it would have been Ghostbusters starring Eddie Murphy, not Ghostbusters starring Bill Murray.
Or he would have forced it to be rewritten, and he would have appeared in the first scene with everybody else, and it would have been a completely different movie. I mean, think about this. Take out Ernie Hudson and Rick Moranis, put in Eddie Murphy and John Candy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a better movie.
No.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so either, but I can't say it would be a bad movie.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Would it be the enduring classic it is? Maybe, but
impossible to tell, but I'm glad we have what we have.
Yeah. I mean,
but honestly, when you've got the Three Stooges, when you've got the Marx Brothers, somebody has to be Zeppo. right? I mean, somebody has to be the lady who always worked with the Three Stooges. Somebody has to be the straight man. Ernie Hudson can do that. Eddie Murphy would not have done that.
At all.
So,
Yeah, I agree. So we are almost out of time, you guys. Thank you so much for staying with us. This, as a reminder, before we let Robbie go off and do the rest of his Saturday stuff.
Which also involves other costumes, by the way.
I will say...
And also involves Zeppo marks, oddly enough. So who'd have thought we'd have a Zeppo reference, right?
I want to remind you guys, I think you guys know this by now, StorySmack happens once a month. It's always on the second Saturday of every month. We'll be back on November 13th, discussing the Mission Impossible franchise.
Wow.
Because MI7 is coming out on November 19th.
$1 billion franchise.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm pumped. I am super pumped. And
So we're going to say that is it for episode 75 of StorySmack. You can find Scott and I online. You can find Robbie here at StorySmack and soon to be making major motion pictures.
We're hoping.
Major motion picture release.
Scott is at Scott Sigler on Twitter and Instagram, and his Facebook page is facebook.com/Scott Sigler. I am a real girl on Twitter and a.real.girl on Instagram.
And
Robbie, I know that you don't necessarily need to pimp your social media, but is there anything you'd like to pimp? Otherwise, we'll say goodbye.
I am on Twitter at OttoManThoughts. If you want to check it out, it's mostly just, my inane thoughts, and it sounds like I'm giving you a mission if you choose to accept it. If not, this
Nice
movie
bridge.
Maven will
Nice
self-destruct
bridge.
in 3, 2, 1.
We'll see you soon,
All
Robbie.
right,
We
we're
love
going to
you.
Maine, and then you guys can't see it,
Thank you
but
so
I
much,
hang
Robbie.
up on Rob right now. Well, we'll follow up with him later. And of course, you can find us online at facebook.com/StorySmack. Sometimes I even update that page, not all the time. We live stream StorySmack every second Saturday of the month at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, and youtube.com/Scott Sigler.
And in addition to StorySmack, we do a once weekly live stream called Sigler in Place. It's on Wednesdays. It starts at 6 p.m. Pacific time right here where you're watching this now.
And we release an unabridged episode of a serialized audiobook novel every week, and you can get episodes for free every stinking Sunday via iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Just go to scottsigler.com/subscribe to get dem links.
And I don't want to forget, you guys, Scott runs a Friday afternoon. It's super rad. It's 30 minutes long. It's so fun. You should check it out live or watch it afterwards. It's a Twitch stream where he talks about pop culture monsters with other writers and directors and all that sort of stuff. And you can watch it on twitch.tv/Scott Sigler and Facebook and all the places that we've
same
mentioned.
place, all the same places you
And it's
mentioned.
called Monster of the Week. And if you've never checked it out, it's absolutely worth checking out.
And for those of you watching live, or if you catch this early enough, this coming episode is going to involve author Mike Cole, author of Legion versus Phalanx, which was absolutely instrumental in my Aliens Phalanx novel. We will talk about that. His new book out is called The Bronze Lie, and we're going to be talking about, do you remember the name of the monster? I forgot already.
I think it's Knossos, right?
No, we're talking about Nessos or
Nessos,
Knossos,
yeah.
depending on how you pronounce it, which is the centaur that killed Hercules.
Yes. We hope that you subscribe. If you go to scottsigler.com, you can subscribe. It's at the top of the left-hand page. You can also subscribe to this feed or go to Scott Sigler, facebook.com/Scott Sigler and subscribe there, and you'll get alerts so that you know whenever live things are coming, or you can watch them once they're done. And we do hope you subscribe so that you can hear Scott's books and more StorySmack goodness in the future.
Let's switch over to main camera, which I don't know why I call it main. We're never going to figure this out. Everybody likes to look at you more than my big-ass bald head.
I think it's you who control the camera, so that's you doing it.
I like looking at you better than my big-ass bald head, I'll tell you that, all day long. There we go. I think that is it. You ready to tell everybody to have a great...
Yeah, until the next episode, you guys.
We will talk to you